The name of the show is The Way to Go. Tonight we have a special guest, a fantastic filmmaker that I've worked with 3 times, and it's my pleasure to introduce you to Lydia Rui. Hi, Lydia. Thank you for coming on the show.
Hi, Alan.
So, Lydia, where do you come from?
Well, I'm Australian by birth,
Right.
but my heritage is Chinese,
Right.
and often I get asked where my accent is from, but it really is kind of a colonial international accent.
So, how long did you spend in Australia?
So it's a long story, but I was born there,
Right.
and I moved back and forth from there to Sichuan in China and Hong Kong as well, where I went to British International School. I did some primary school in Australia as well, and then I left again, went to Australian school in Singapore, and then I went back to Australia again for university. So I think a total of about 7 years or so, but I still go back. Last year I went back 3 times.
So, what did you study in college?
So I did 1 semester at University of Melbourne in Australia, and then I came to NYU. I came to New York to go to school here, and I studied media, culture, and communications, where I focused mainly on anthropology and semiotics. And then I transferred into Tisch, where I go to the New York University's film school.
Okay.
So it's a good school.
Did you always want to get into film, or when was your first desire? When did that desire start?
It's so hard to say. I think I had numerous awakenings along the path, I guess.
Right.
I've always had an avid interest for anything creative. You know, I love writing and drawing and music. And then, I don't know, I think I just started watching a better quality of films in high school. And then I fell in love with David Attenborough and BBC, Planet Earth and Life. And I thought I wanted to be a nature documentarian. Went to Nicaragua for a month and studied howler monkeys. And then I realized that physically I may not have been up for the task. And nonetheless, I decided to do a documentary course at Tisch prior to joining Tisch. And I made a documentary about girls that boxed in the Lower East Side projects.
Wow.
It was like they were, this one ex-Marine actually wanted to reinvigorate the community from within by channeling all of this violence that was going on in the Lower East Side projects through an underground gym. And these girls would protect themselves through these courses, and that documentary screened at the IFC Center.
Wow, that's fantastic.
It was just like a one-off thing as part of the Tisch Talent Showcase, and then after that I applied for Tisch.
Did you have the support of your parents, or was it?
Yeah, I think it's funny because when I was 15, I think a lot of young girls go through a phase where they want to be a singer or an actress just because those are the female figures that you see in the media. And so that's all I saw as an option to me. I thought I wanted to be an actress. I took an acting class and here and there, and I really did not I didn't enjoy it. I'm not very comfortable in front of a camera. And when I was 15, my mother said to me, "You should think about directing." And I was like, directing? What's that? Nobody cares about the director. Nobody knows who the director is.
Right.
And so I think it was funny when years later I was like, Mama, like literally 5 years later, I was like, Mom, I think I want to try to be a director. I want to pursue the path of filmmaking.
So what was your first non-documentary film?
The first was with you, actually, when in my... I was part of the last year at NYU to shoot on 16mm film, where we used Tri-X reversal black and white film. We shot on the RAS, SRS, and we would hand edit on the Steenbeck. and now no more. They've gotten rid of all of those Steenbecks, unfortunately.
But you're happy you experienced that.
But
right?
I'm incredibly happy because it's taught me to be economical in how I shoot, and yeah, I think it's a great experience with you.
So you wrote the movie yourself, and I mean.
Yeah, I write it all myself.
I mean, how long did I thought it was a great movie. And what was the name of the movie again?
Stay Awake for Me.
Oh no, that was
that one.
That was
the second one.
That was the second.
A Lesson in Smiling.
A Lesson in Smiling. Yeah.
That was honestly, I didn't even write it. I just had it kind of in my head,
Right.
and then because because it was black and white film, I wanted to stay true to the medium and kind of harken back to jazzy days and.
Well, that's it. I did want to mention one thing. My best friend in the world, Frank Sinclair, loved the music that you had in the Stardust.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, he loves your work, by the way. And but it was amazing, that set. I mean, certain things happened. Even when we were trying to close the cabinets and they kept on opening.
I know.
It was like almost like it was like just another force that was happening in that film.
It's so funny because both the documentary, I made 2 documentaries in the class prior to going to Tisch, and it was the reason why I came to make that documentary was because the Marine Corps guy saw me carrying a camera and told me about this underground girls' fight club that he had. And so my documentary teacher said that the documentary gods are shining upon you. And I think it's the same thing happens in film often.
But I think that the gods do shine on you, because the other thing I enjoyed about...
But I think they shine on everybody, honestly. I think
but
that
sometimes
fortuitous...
people don't realize, I mean, luck is something that I guess everyone has, but a lot of people don't recognize it when they see it. But the thing that I also... One of the scenes was with me and the little girl. And I think that's like I was always like... I love that scene on the park bench with... I mean, when we're looking at it, she's trying to make me smile. Mm-hmm. And I mean, that seems like a theme that recurs in that you have the older, like an old person, and that, who's at the end of his journey, and like a young person who's just starting out. And it's just those touching moments that, I mean, I watched that movie not just because, I mean, maybe because I'm in it, but also because, but there's such touching moments in there that you created, and it was outstanding.
No, I really appreciate that. I mean, I think it was a great exercise also for me, in terms of, I think I learned so much doing those things, and working with you was so easy, maybe too easy, like in terms of maybe I've been spoiled by you because you're so cooperative with me.
Well, it's fun. I mean, I do it for the pleasure of it, and I think even though you're in the process of becoming, a professional filmmaker, and I look at your work and I think it's wonderful. I think you do it because you enjoy doing it. I mean,
I love it. Yeah,
right.
I do.
And it's so collaborative. I mean, you had the group of people that were working. Your crew was great, and
yeah, Mike Farino was the DP of that one, and he had so much more experience than me, which I really embrace as well. I love working with older people and younger people because both, I think, have so much to offer. You learn so much from people who, are children who have no social filters, are not weighed down by the weight of the world, and then people who are older, much older than me, have seen so much more of the world, and they have a lot of lessons to offer. So
and there's people like you who are observant and can spot the sentimental and poignant moments in people's lives. Now, Stay Awake from Me, which was that your second movie?
That was my that was my third.
What was the second?
The second was just something that I was in myself, so I was not able to. So Stay Awake for Me, I shot myself.
Right.
The second one, which I don't even know if I had a title, was inspired by this Vanity Fair article that I read about Marilyn Monroe. Because she suffered from depression, as did I, and she wrote about having a nightmare in which she woke up and she saw surgeons operating on her, and they opened her up to find that she was filled with nothing but sawdust. And I found that such a powerful image, that one's greatest fear was that everybody would kind of denounce her as a faker, and it's doubly ironic because she is an actress. And so I think that really inspired me. I'm always scared that I'm something that I'm,
Wow.
that
I
I'm
think, we all have self-doubts, but I always say the proof is in the pudding, and you have some really good films. So I'd like to talk about Stay Awake for me. I was so happy to get the second call from you to work on that film. And that was a touching movie. I just remember showing it to people in my office. And my next door neighbor, Yana, and she'll probably see this show, came in the office and I showed her that. And she left my office in tears. And it's such a touching film. And again, the little girl in that who played my daughter, I mean, that was her first film. And she was such a good, she was amazing. I mean, she was so loving, and I mean, she put her head on my shoulder, and just the way you filmed the last moments of it were incredible. I mean, just the moments where she's there, and then she's not there, and then, I mean, it was a wonderful film.
I think, I was very fortunate to have the experience of working to finding a child actor like her, because she was so open to new experiences. She was so open to acting so intimately with somebody she'd never met.
Right. It was incredible. I mean, I love the scene of like when she's running through the door and she drops the balloon, and I mean, it's just everything about that. And then when you realize that, that there's the candle in front of her picture, it was chilling, that, it was a beautiful movie, and thank you for allowing me to be in it.
No, thank you, Alan. You made that movie.
Well,
Everybody commented on you.
Well, it was a wonderful film. So, what was next?
We made that 48-hour.
So that was the next.
That was the.
So it was really
thing,
sequential. Yeah. Wow. So I was like in 3 of the 4 movies that you made. That was great. But that was amazing. I got that call. I remember I was going into Walgreens on Boston Road in New Rochelle. On I think it was a Friday. It had to be a Friday night because that's when you got. You called me saying, "Hey, Alan, would you like to work on a film with me?" And I said, sure. And I asked you, when is it shooting? Well, you said tomorrow. It's like, oh my God.
That's
Lydia,
the nature of a 48-hour film shoot,
and it was, what was it again? What was the film shoot about called?
It was called In Havana.
Well, but it was for the 48-hour.
It was the Tisch 48-hour film festival.
Which is
so
a very
what they
prestigious
do is
48-hour film festival.
Well, it was the first year that it was internationally opened.
Yes.
And what they do is they give you prompts on Friday night at 6 p.m. But I was in class, so I didn't receive the prompts until 9 p.m.
Really?
Hence why I was up and calling you at like 11 p.m. being like, hey. So part of the prompt is businessman, CEO.
Right.
I think we'll really have, I think it was... Yeah,
it was
very fortunate that I got to have
and
you.
So you wrote that, right? I mean, was that, or was it a collaboration?
It was a collaboration between Michael and I.
Right, but you directed.
But I directed.
And we filmed. How many different locations? There were quite a few, like 2 or 3 locations.
I'd say 3 locations.
At the park.
And it was a 3-minute short,
right.
3 locations in 3 minutes.
The park, the beach, and the apartment.
Yeah, we got that all done in like, I don't know, 9 hours or something.
And it was freezing. It was freezing but it's funny, when you film, you don't feel the cold. At least when you say action, I don't feel the cold. But when you say, okay, cut, it's like that's when you realize it's freezing outside. But it was a lot of fun. Except I got a ticket, but I wound up, getting taken care of that.
You and Augie made a great homoerotic businessman
pair.
that
was crazy. That was amazing. That was but it was a different scene for me. And but it was beautiful, and you were a finalist, right? I mean, we actually saw it. Not every film got picked.
No, that was really. It's always so gratifying seeing something that you made on the big screen like that. It's a huge screen at the Cantor Film Center, so.
And also, it was the last one they showed. Remember? So but we got a chance to see all the other films, and it was definitely an honor, and it was. And unfortunately, that's been our last collaboration. But the future holds.
For now.
So, you're obviously working on other projects. What other projects have you done since?
Well, I recently just finished shooting my thesis film,
Right.
Called Touching is Teaching.
Right.
And that's definitely been a big step for me, having a big budget, which I've never had before.
Right.
Shooting on 35 millimeter, directing over 30 people in my crew, with up to 10 featured actors, not including the main and the supporting.
Right. So, if we can stop just for a moment, would you mind if we showed some of the clips of some of your work at this point?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, so enjoy the clips that we're going to show you right now.
Hey, that's my bed.
Really?
Yeah, I like to be by the window.
Yeah? Well, so do I. I'm on it. It's mine.
Edie. Oh. See, you've met Amy.
She's on my bed.
Trouble already?
Sheesh, I was just kidding, okay? Chill. You like my bangles?
What did I tell you? Isn't she great? So you were talking about Touching is Teaching, right?
Yeah. So the film is about a 12-year-old girl called Edie, and she's been hospitalized for depression, and she's the only child in the psychiatric ward where she's been admitted. Her co-residents happen to be a medley of equally unstable elderly people, actually probably more unstable, until a 15-year-old girl comes along by the name of Amy, and Amy represents this wild thing of teenage years, of the modern teenage girl who's kind of been left to her own devices, and she befriends Edie, and they take on this unconventional and yet conventional in many ways friendship, bordering on romance, until Amy leaves and Edie is left on her own again. But it's a short film, and it's very much inspired by my own experiences.
Well, you seem to have come out pretty well. But I guess in your films, do you find yourself bringing out a lot of experiences that have happened in your life, or are they reflections of you in one way or another, or are they fantasies, or a combination of both, or whatever?
I think they're a combination of both. I think it's very hard to remove your subjectivity from anything that you create.
Right.
I did actually make one more Sight and Sound 16mm film after Stay Awake for Me, now that I recall, and that was an interesting...
What was it about?
It was about a prostitute who was abused as a child, and she, her abuser comes, and it's very film noir. It's very femme fatale, man who's kind of a caricature of evil almost. It's not at all meant to be subtle.
Right.
You know, it's very film noir in that sense. And so yeah, I think it's inevitable. I think it's very hard for me to make something that I can't touch upon, that I'm not involved in emotionally or have a personal stake in. Otherwise, it's not real. I don't have the authority to speak about it. So I am working on I'm writing a feature at the moment, which is something that I don't have the authority to speak about. But I will do as much research as I can, watch as many documentaries as I can, so that I can feel when the time is right, I will have the authority.
And I'm sure there's like humanistic and emotional things that are shared in every feature, that you'll be able to bring to the picture,
Yeah.
So I agree with you, though, that even in acting or everything, you a part of you is left up on that screen, or if you're being real, or if it's for it to be meaningful, I think you have to leave something behind. You're showing something of yourself. So if you're not, then you're really just acting. But I think it comes through. I mean, you're the filter. I mean, something has to pass through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think in directing this film, I learned a lot because we never did rehearsals. For example, I did rehearsals with my two lead actors for
That's
this
good.
film, and we had a lot of intimate moments where it was just us and nobody else, and the three of us, me and the two lead actresses, we found ourselves really opening up at a very deep level, and I think that really helped us when we got on set.
That's it.
I think trust is important. Trust is very important.
Well, one thing I agree with you, especially if you're working with actors for the first time, rehearsal could be helpful but I find a lot of times now that I've been working with the same film directors and filmmakers, and I mean, occasionally we'll do like table reads or stuff like that, but most of the time we wind up not really...
not needing them.
You could always use them. You could always use them, but it's... sometimes, you don't need them sometimes, but sometimes you do need them, especially if the actor or actress that you're working with is a new actor, even if you're working with the same filmmaker. But I find that a lot of films I'm working on, I mean, do you stick to the script with your films with that, or do you allow the actor or actress to deviate from the script at all at times? Or?
I mean, I'm definitely not... I try not to be too precious with anything.
Right.
In the rehearsals, I tend to find that certain lines can just be removed altogether.
Right.
And really, in the writing process, what I'm doing so much of the time is writing the subtext, writing what the characters are thinking.
Right.
And that helps me get the flow, the rhythm down. But then once in the actual performance, I can remove so much of that because it's already in their minds. And they say it in their actions, in their behavior. It's implied. And so they don't need to say it. Saying it becomes forced.
Did the two actresses prior to this, was that the first time they met in this movie? Or
Yeah.
Yeah. And did they become...
They became very close. It was actually funny because in the rehearsals they didn't gel so well.
Right.
And there's a scene in my film where they kiss, and we actually had that scene on the first day of shooting, and I think that just made everything, that just eased so much tension.
Right.
Because they had to get themselves giggling and getting, it was just silly and fun.
And real.
And very real.
That's it. I mean,
very real.
That's it. You never know where you're going to find love and compassion.
And love is also so so multidimensional as well. It's not necessarily, theirs is a kind of a friendship love tinged with something else. It's like a deep caring that neither of them really know.
I can't wait to see it. I'm really looking forward to seeing it. You got me. You hooked me. What can I say? But I love your
They're
work.
also incredibly amazingly talented actresses.
So what's next for you?
So I need to raise money to pay back
Right.
the funds that I borrowed to make this film.
Right.
I need to finish editing this film, pay for a composer and sound designer and colorist,
Right.
and submit it to festivals. I would really like this film to.
So how do you plan to fund it?
I'm going to launch a Kickstarter briefly.
Okay, and in the end credits, we'll have the information for the Kickstarter. Okay, how do you like that?
I would love that.
Okay.
every penny counts. So.
Right. I mean, even us at LMC TV, deal with Kickstarters, and we're all trying to make our way in the film world. So
yeah, it's definitely not a cheap career. It's funny. It's one of those oxymoronic things, so paradoxical things where you have to invest a lot and get paid the least.
But you do it for you have a passion for it, right? I mean,
exactly.
It makes you happy, right?
No, I mean the rewards that I get out of it are tenfold in personal worth and happiness and value.
And I can tell you the people that
forever.
work with you, including myself, also have that passion and enjoy working with you. I mean, you are a person who enjoys working with actors. You treat them well, and it's always been a pleasure working with you. It's always been a pleasure, and I look forward to working with you again in the future.
Thank you, Alan.
Right. So I hate to say this, but we've come to the end of the show. And,
that's great timing.
I hope all of you get a chance to look at the wonderful work of Lydia. She's a fantastic filmmaker and a fantastic person. So good night. It's a wrap.
Thank
Take
you,
care.
Alan. Thank you for having me on the show.